Hey, it's me, Maggie J. Today with a review of the 5th and 6th episode of Reservation Dogs Season 3. I'm trying to hurry, so I'll cut it short with the introduction. Episode 5, called House of Bongs, is a look into the past and answers several of the questions I asked after watching Episode 2 of this season. Also, I am a dumbass, so ignore all those questions I asked then, because no, that's not Chokaji, but yes, that is Brownie, who is in the same age bracket as Mabel. So, alright, now that that's out of the way, let's talk about this episode. The year is 1976, and we've seen these characters before. In the film Maximus showed Bear in his Radio Shack. Brownie, played by Nathan Alexis, is the only one in this group that doesn't attend high school, but he does hang out there, giving rides to his cousin Mabel, amongst others. Weird that this school is called St. Nicholas, the same name as the residential school Dear Lady went to. That feels like a double-edged sword for these kids, but anyway, Mabel, played by Shelby Factor, and Irene, played by Quanah Chasing Horse, are the best of friends. Given the last names, I assume the person playing Brownie is related to Paulina Alexis, who we know as Willie Jack in the current timeline, and Cheese is played by Lane Factor, so perhaps Shelby is also related to him? It's really not a big deal. I just noticed and wanted to mention it. Excellent job to casting for who they chose to be young Irene. With the hair and the glasses, she looks just like the Irene we are familiar with. Buchanan, better known as Bucky, is played by the show's very own sound director, Mato. His last name on IMDb is listed as Standing Soldier, but I found him going by several names in different places online, so I'm not totally sure what he'd like to be called. He is just Bucky in this episode, not our uncle yet. Anyway, he pops his head in to interrupt this class by singing Frankfurter Sandwiches, which must mean something to these kids since some of them find this funny. The teacher of this class references dorms here, so I thought this was a kind of college, but apparently it's just high school, and some people travel a long way to come here and have the option of living closer than their home. I've not heard of this before, but maybe someone can tell me in the comments what's going on here. Hot Rod, I know you've got a lot of answers about Oklahoma, so don't hold out on me. Maximus, played by Isaac Arianis, is trying to get everyone to call him Chaban. He carries around a camera and is filming The Chaban Show in the hallways of the school. He comes across Irene and Mabel, who are expecting him to score some window pane for the party tonight. He has not fulfilled this request, but they will wait for him, so off he goes. The three potheads he asks tell him to check with his cousin Fixigo. He's always got some, that damn medicine man. Maximus and Fixico are having a disagreement about Mabel, though, and Maximus refuses to interact with him. Later, Bucky invites Maximus to stay with him for the summer and make up with Fixico, but he insists he's going to stay in the dorms and not talk to his cousin. Then they all pile into Brownie's car and head over to Sonic's after school, and Fixico happens to also show up. They still want the window pane, so Brownie gets out and organizes a deal later on by the river, to Maximus's chagrin, and Irene blames Mabel for all this tension. Mabel insists she's just doing her own thing. This beef is between the guys, all on their own. Down by the river, it's a whole party. Plenty of people and a keg and tons of weed going around. Maximus is still acting like a stick in the mud about Fixico, and Mabel tries to talk him out of it, saying they only dated for like a week. Maximus says this isn't about that, but as he elaborates more, it feels like it's a long-term jealousy issue. Fixico has always had a stable family situation. He's being taught medicine. Things have always come easy for him. Meanwhile, Maximus has left his home to be here at this school. He doesn't have his parents any longer, and Fixico doesn't recognize the struggles Maximus has had to overcome, so Maximus holds a grudge. At least he admits that this is his own shit he needs to sort out, but at their age, I can understand it's hard to admit you're jealous of someone else's position. And at my age, I understand it's not the other person's problem how you feel, and it's super rude to expect them to understand you or feel responsible for what you feel you need. Keeping his thoughts and feelings to himself is the right thing to do, but it does make him look bitter to those around him. The rest of the friends gather up, and they discuss where they want to be when they're older. Brownie wants to save up enough money from welding jobs to open a dojo. Irene wants to join AIM and storm the Capitol. Mabel wants to raise a bunch of babies and be a better mother than her own. Bucky wants to be a scientist. Maximus wants to make movies, but his friends razz him about it. What are you gonna move to Hollywood? This annoys him, and he calls them crabs in a bucket, not letting anyone have bigger dreams than themselves. I wonder if this isn't a slice of Sterling here in this character, wanting to make movies other people will enjoy while being a resourceless shit-ass here in Oklahoma. No worries though, their window pane, aka acid, shows up eventually, and they all put a little drop in their tongues and enter a whole new dimension. Time carries on, a bit more distorted, with the visions and sounds, until it's well after dark, and Maximus has to drive the group home since Brownie is drunk to the point of puking. Fixico stops them before they leave and asks Maximus if they're good. Grandma has been asking about him and wants him to know he's always welcome at the house. Maximus isn't in a gracious mood, though, and tells Fixico he doesn't need him. He's just fine on his own. And fuck you, man! Unfortunately for Maximus, everyone falls asleep on the drive, and he's also kind of drifting. Drifting off the road, drifting off to sleep, until he sees something from above. Maximus stops the car and gets out. There's a being standing there, underneath something floating in the sky. It claims to be a relative who came to look at him. Then suddenly it's gone, and he's looking at a pile of rocks. His friends wake up and pile out of the car, asking what he's doing. He asks if they saw the alien, but they didn't see anything. They blame the acid and tell him to get back in the car. Brownie takes over driving, and that's the end of the episode. Because I was looking up who guest stars in this episode, I saw that Dalton Kramer is the one playing the alien. He also plays Daniel, so I thought it was cool that they included him again, even if we didn't get to see his face or anything. Feels like a big family affair with an episode like this, and those playing younger versions of the adults possibly related to the regular cast. Pretty cool in my opinion. The first time I watched this episode, I wasn't sure if I liked it very much. You know I like my stories to be a bit more linear and keep focused on the main story, since we only have so many episodes left and all. But after watching it a few times and discussing with those who don't watch it too much, I realized this was a great episode. It answered a ton of questions, told me more about these characters that I enjoy in a showing way rather than a telling way, and connected some dots as far as family trees and relationships go in the realm of this show. So after all that, I think this is a great episode and definitely necessary to the timeline. Plus, it fits so well between what we've been shown this season and the following episode, it really grew on me even more after watching that one. So let's carry on to talk about episode 6, called Frankfurter Sandwiches. Like that song Bucky sang at the beginning of episode 5. So this one starts off with Cheese defending the high school from zombies. But this is just a game that he's been playing on a VR system. Maybe his glasses are allowing him to really enjoy these games now, but it's been several weeks that he's been in the house, avoiding everything, including cleaning up after himself. Grandma Irene tells him that his relatives are at the door, but he asks her to tell them he's not feeling great. I wasn't sure who she was referring to, but then we see the rest of the dogs are at the door. I love that she called them his relatives. I don't love that he's avoiding them. What's going on, Cheese? She is concerned to the point she calls in the uncles, who decide it's time for a rescue mission, aka a camping trip. Bucky, Brownie, and Big hustle him out to the car and then out to the woods to battle some real zombies. They each have their own versions of zombies. Cheese leads the way wearing an army helmet and swinging Uncle Brownie's machete around. When they get to where they want to camp, each uncle has brought their own sleeping implements. Big brought a tent, Bucky brought a hammock, Brownie plans to sleep on the ground in just a sleeping bag. Even when they fish, they each have their own way. Bucky is trying to drug the fish into floating up to the surface. Big shows Cheese how to bait a hook. Brownie is gonna smoke his medicine until he gets a bite. Cheese doesn't think fishing is all that great, but Brownie explains it's not about fishing. It's about appreciating the entire experience, including the smells, the sounds, the input from nature. It's all medicine that's healing him, if he just takes the time to soak it all in. Uncle Bucky's fishing method seems to be the best. He pulls in several fish, and then teaches Cheese to fry it up with some good oil and Himalayan salt. While they're waiting for the food to finish, they start to dig into what's stuck in Cheese's craw. He tells Bucky he's just waiting for his friends, and everyone else, to up and leave him, since that's how it's been in the past, so he's kind of pushing them away as a means to protect himself from the future pain. Remember that we don't know where his parents are, or how he came to be living with Uncle Charlie until the state put him in a group home, so this makes sense for a boy of his age. While looking for firewood, Big tells Cheese about the time he saw 4 Bigfoot out in the woods. Young Big was out there, looking at an issue of Playboy, when a bad stink came upon him, and he saw a whole family of Bigfoot just looking at him. To me, they look like the tall man that Leon saw back in season 1, but I'm not going to question it too much. Bucky has finished cooking lunch and offers up a homemade hot sauce that Big uses way too much of on his serving of fish. Apparently, 1 dab will do ya. After lunch, the uncles are more than content to just kick back and enjoy the quiet of the woods. Cheese is more restless and suggests they have a talking circle, like they did back at the group home, and they all share something about themselves. The uncles get really into it and open up about how they feel about some topics that that they've probably never discussed, even amongst themselves. Big brings up the night he lost 2 friends due to his own actions. Bucky and Brownie talk about losing their friend Maximus, and the next thing Cheese knows, they're all 3 bawling their eyes out about the guilt they carry around with them. I think the lesson here is that if you don't share these deep feelings and issues as you go through them, they change who you are, how you live your life, how you treat others, and it's really not good for anyone. Bucky says that's why Irene called them, to prevent Cheese from pulling away from everyone and becoming lost, like Maximus. Cheese promises he will stop trying to withdraw, and that seems to make Bucky and Brownie feel better about him. And Cheese gets started right away by calling the rest of the dogs out to join them in the woods. They brought Sonics along with them, and everybody enjoys their drinks and watches the sunset together. Aww, so friggin' sweet. Another great episode that teaches many lessons despite not a whole lot happening. I'm glad the uncles got to finally share, at least amongst themselves, how they feel and to let each other know they aren't terrible people for what they've been through. Being able to pass those lessons on to a younger generation hopefully ensures they won't wind up like the older ones, carrying guilt they don't understand or find hard to manage all on their own. They had a therapy session out here in these woods that will carry on down and make at least this friend group even stronger, and I think that's great for all of them. I'm glad we got to see this. Knowing what we know about what happened to Maximus and the night Cookie died, I hope this does help the uncles lessen their burdens over their actions and what they did or didn't do. Only time will tell though, so we gotta wait and see where the rest of this season will take us. Let me know how you felt about these episodes. Did you like the look back to seeing the elders when they were young? Would you like to take a trip into the woods with your uncles and do some healing work? Just leave a comment or a like, and y'all stay safe out there.